Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game here at City Boxing, being joined by the WBA middleweight champion, Mr. Rob Brant. Now, great to see you. You are in camp for your rematch against Ryota Murata. First off, how's camp going?
It's going really great so far. We're really starting to pick up stride now and doing all the rounds and sparring, and all the weight is coming off just fine. So, weight's not going to be an issue. Everything is feeling very strong, very ready.
Now, I know your first fight against him, that was a very dominant performance. Do you prepare the same way now, or do you do anything different?
You definitely have to add things too. He's especially coming back. He's been thinking about. Is this the last bout? His last fight was against me, so I know that he's going to be coming a lot more body shots, a lot more pressure himself, but I don't think that he's going to be able to match punch for punch with me. So we definitely had to add a few things in a training camp in order to, kind of really capitalize on the fact that we're the champion. He's a challenger now.
And what about sparring partners?
Yeah, we have a good number of sparring partners. I've brought in a gentleman from Dallas who's very talented. Also work with Adrian Taylor, Quantavious Cash, who's on the Contender show, as well as Linnell Bellows. So we have quite a few sparring partners, ones that emulate the amount of power they can bring. I usually try to work with guys that are a little bit bigger, considering that on fight night, Murata's going to be a big boy.
Now, the first fight was here in Las Vegas. The rematch is taking place in Japan, overseas. Only your second fight out of this country, and in his backyard. Was that kind of part of the plan to go in his backyard?
We had a lot of power in terms of that because we did have an automatic rematch clause that they did not trigger right after they took the loss. So when it came down to the rematch, I did feel that, of course there's financial gains in working with him in Japan, but there's also the fact that he did come to the United States in order to give me a shot at the title. So therefore I felt it was only fair to make him the challenger in his home country as well. Of course with the same result.
Very classy of you.
Yeah, I try to be. I don't dislike Murata. He's a good person, but we both want the same thing, and I just want it more than he does.
Do you know what made him not take that immediate rematch?
I haven't heard an exact word, but I do know that he lost, pretty convincingly. And it was quite a beating, if you will. So. I think he just needed time to get his head right, and whether or not, when we were at the press conference, he brought up retirement 3 separate times, like he thought about retirement, things like that. So I think he was kind of struggling with what he wanted to do going forward. And to me, that always told me that, he can break in those mid to late parts of the fight if he's already considering retirement if he doesn't win this one. So it's definitely a sense of motivation going forward.
But how do you see this fight going? With your first fight, like you said, dominant performance and victory, but do you see this one being a decision or stoppage?
I threw 1,262 punches, which was 2 punches short of the CompuBox record for middleweight division. So I've been telling my coach the entire time, one thing is going to break. Either the record is going to break or Murata will before the fight is done. So I'm going to be prepared in order to do 12 very hard, 5 fast-paced rounds, but if he happens to break beforehand, I'd be happy with that too. I don't get paid by the hour, so it's. I definitely hope that, he'll break before the record does, because that's hard work.
Now, you did defend your belt in your backyard. Was this rematch the only option that was on the table, or were there other fights for you?
There were definitely other fights that were getting talked about and things like that, but once this got brought up, I did choose that this was going to be kind of the best decision for me. I really feel like, just in case I do have to ever get on the road again. I feel like, going on the road is something that, it's important. If you've never been a underdog, I always felt like you played it safe. So I think that going into his home country puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage, but at the same point, it's something you prove to yourself that I'll be able to look back on later and say that I will go to anybody's backyard. The ring is my home, not necessarily the country.
Now, I respect that, but you were in Japan for that press conference. What was that atmosphere like there?
It was actually a very, very good city. Like, I fought in Germany once before in a weight class up. My only loss in my career, and it was a little more hostile there. The people are very kind in Japan, and it's the cleanest city I've ever been to, and a very respectful place. So I'm excited to go back. I'm not sure how excited they'll be when I'm leaving that I was there, but I'm definitely very excited to go back and perform.
Now, will your family be going with you?
Yeah, definitely my wife always goes with me, and then I'll have my father and my stepmother along with my brother and his wife, so along with probably about 10 or 15 other family members and close friends. So I'll have a small but dense support group there.
Now, I know when you did win the title, you said it didn't really sink in yet, and you are very humble. A lot of people say that, and it is true. But after also defending it, and like I said, in your home, in your backyard, I mean, has that sunk in yet that you are the champion?
It sinks into the fact that you are looked at in a different light, but I try not to get so content with the fact that you have one belt. There's other belts out there, and until you've collected all of them, I feel that there's always a step up, and if you're always considering it to be a step up, then you're never really content with where you are. So I always look at it as, until you win all the belts, don't think too highly of yourself, because there's always somebody coming behind you, just like I was, not looked at as a favorite against Murata. There's somebody else who could not be looked at as a favorite against me, and if I overlook that person, then that could be the end of it. So it's a focus time more than anything else.
But was Triple G, because I heard there were some talks that you may fight Triple G, was that, how close was that fight to being made?
It was close enough where it got mentioned to me, but not so close in which the contracts were exchanged and things like that. So, of course, we're on opposite sides of the street, but fights of this magnitude with championships and championship fighters, they can definitely be made. So, it's definitely always on the table. He has an assignment in front of him in Stephen Rolls, and I have an assignment in front of me in Ryota Murata, and afterward, whether it be him or me triggering the mandatory with Canelo Alvarez, there's options on the table, but none of that happens unless I beat Ryota Murata first.
But was money did money play a factor in the fight with Triple G not being made?
No, it really wasn't a factor. I mean, of course, the amounts of money that get thrown around with those names are big. I'm not necessarily from a lot of money growing up, so all these things, I'm still in a position where I'm making more money now than I ever imagined I would. So. The numbers to me always sound great. I mean, at that point, I've made it to the point where I can secure a future, so therefore I don't have to protect a record anymore. I can just fight the best of the best of the best, and that's really what I plan on doing.
But do you know, was it his side that, didn't take the fight, or it didn't get to that point yet?
I don't think it really got to that point. Yeah, again, that's kind of something I kind of left to Top Rank and Bob Arum when it came down to that end. And I don't think things moved fast enough. Again, it's something, you have a fight like that, they need to give you a considerable amount of time, and it was a decent amount of time, but not for the fight of this magnitude, especially considering I'm champion and he is challenger. So there was just some roadblocks there and some understandings that needed to be made, and then just if they weren't made instantly, they wasn't going to happen. So it wasn't made instantly by, the point that I heard it to 24 hours later or whatever it was. There was no way that was going to happen. So in the future, I'm sure it'll be something where they'll go forward and come approach me a little bit earlier, and with their offer with a full training camp, and then it's definitely something that's on the dock, could be on the docket.
But you did mention Canelo and champion versus champion. First off, what did you make of his fight and his recent victory?
I mean, to me, it's a huge fight. I mean, Daniel Jacobs is a known phenomenal outside boxer with great power. So I mean, it was he looked good. I thought he looked great. He's looked great in his last few fights. Nobody's unbeatable, but I would consider him to be the most looked at middleweight in the division right now. So of course that's the guy that everybody wants to fight. We figure who the toughest guy on the block is, and that is 100% what I look forward to getting in there with. Of course, he does everything on his own time and on his own. So I'm on a short list, so to speak. But that's 100% what I want, is to eventually fight Canelo for the rest of the belts.
Do you think that would be likely after your fight against Murata?
That's kind of a debriefing that I do after the fight, because in my loss previously, and in my loss in the Olympic trials, it was always, what do I have tomorrow? What is the next? What is the next? And so on what's in front of me. So I told myself from my last loss that I would never do that again. So. Of course, my eyes prick up, or my ears prick up when I hear mentions of possibilities, but I don't put too much stock in it due to the fact that, Ryota Murata's not thinking about anything but me, just like I was doing the same when I was going to fight him. So he was thinking about fighting Triple G when I beat him for the title. And I'm not going to make that same mistake and start thinking about Canelo when we have someone like Murata coming up who's an Olympic gold medalist. So he's a very experienced guy, so I have to take him very seriously.
And taking your experience from Olympic trials, what can you take from that you bring into your pro career now?
Yeah, I had 124 amateur fights, so I think in that there's a learning process that happens when you shouldn't be surprised by when somebody does something. You've seen a lot before. of course, surprising things happen in the ring, but it's not something you won't be able to adjust and move around. It's your ability to adjust, which is something I think I built in the amateurs. So, he's going to come out there with some new tactics, and we're going to be able to, adjust accordingly. Like I said, game plans are very malleable. It's one thing to say we're going to go out there and do this exactly until you get hit, and then you have to figure out a way around that. So, like I said, it's the amateur career and everything. The background really gave me that ability a lot more to. You have 5 different people that week that you have to fight. Everyone's going to be different, so it's ability to adjust. This is really what I took out of the amateurs.
I know you don't have much downtime, but in your spare time, do you have any favorite hobbies? Do you play video games, TV shows you're into?
No, I don't play video games. I do read comic books. Yeah.
DC or Marvel?
A little bit of both. I like Marvel. I mean, I read the entire Miles Morales. I also got into the Punisher a little bit and Daredevil. So, I mean, I'm all over the place with it. But I'm relatively new to comic books. But I go see movies pretty often as well, though. It's kind of things I can relax and chill out doing that aren't hiking and things like that I like to do outside of boxing. So, but when I'm in camp, you kind of have to be a little bit more sedentary lifestyle. So. I do a lot of book reading. I've read the Game of Thrones series, the Song of Ice and Fire series up to this point, probably about 2 times each book. So I like to read a little bit, but I also, definitely try to keep you sharp in a sport that will kill some brain cells. You at least try to help them out a little bit. So
you're very articulate and very well spoken. But lastly, what is your favorite movie?
It's embarrassing. It's a movie called Solo from the 90s. It's about basically a Terminator, a good Terminator type of storyline. It's really corny. Some people understand it when I see it, but for some reason I've seen that movie about 40 plus times since. I mean, every time from Blockbuster Video, back in the day we used to get the VHS, and every time my dad went to go rent movies, I'd always ask for the movie Solo. So I'd have to say, that's probably it doesn't age well, but, I like it. It's, it reminds me of my childhood and things like that.
You can be honest. How many times have you watched it?
I'm not kidding when I say over 40 times. I've seen that movie a lot.
You can recite it.
Yeah, most of it. Well, these days, it's been a couple years since I've seen it, but yeah, I can get a lot of it. For certain.
Well, I think maybe on your downtime, since you are in camp and can't really do many outdoor activities right now, maybe watch Solo.
You know what? I think I might. It's a good point. It's a good point. Bring me back a little bit.
Yes, and you are defending your title on July 12th against the man you won it from, the WBA middleweight champion, Rob Brant. What would you like to tell all your fans?
Just make sure you tune in to the fight July 12th. I'm very excited, very well prepared, and it's like I said, it's kind of my coming out party to the international crowd. So I'm very excited to represent Top Rank and continue to be a middleweight champion.